What is up, YouTube? Pink Reaper here, back with another video. Advanced Wars by Web. A lot of reasons this video has taken a little while. One, just these games have taken a while to actually finish. Okay, but before I get into that, let's just set this up real quick. This is another video against a random opponent, Mabsky here. Grit versus Colin. This map did not have any banned COs, which is insane to me. I saw that and I picked my the only top tier CO I actually like playing, which is Grit. Grit is one of my two high tier COs that I actually really like playing, along with Sasha. Fully expecting to get just absolutely blown away by a Hachi, but that's not what happened. My opponent picked Colin, who's just Hachi light. This game, like I said, is played against a random, so the first, I want to say probably about 8 or 9 turns were live played. That is, we were both awake and playing at the same time, and then the entire rest of the game happened like one to 2 turns per day. I want to say all that ahead of time because there are some odd plays that get made during the game that I think might just be related to that. The game taking as long as it did and going so long in between turns. The other reason there hasn't been any real Advanced Wars videos uploaded in the last week or two is because I just haven't really had any great games, to be honest. I had a couple of games where I just got blown away in the first 8 or 9 turns, and I had a couple of games where I just blew away my opponent in the first 8 or 9 turns, and then that was it. A lot of stupid plays on my part that let the opponent get ahead really far, or a lot of stupid plays on my opponent's part that let me get really ahead really ahead really quickly. This is not one of those games. So this is a top tier CO game. Both of these COs are generally considered broken. I feel like I'm at a disadvantage though. Grit is, of the tier 0 COs, probably one of the weaker COs, because he relies heavily on the map being favorable for his strategies. He loves choke points for his indirect units, and there are a few solid choke points on the map, like right here in the center that connects his half of the map to my half of the map, as well as theoretically right here around these mountains. Because this section right here can't be approached except for, from this small area here. Same way right here. But realistically, this map doesn't have a huge amount of, choke points to hold with Grit's Grit's artilleries or rockets. The other big disadvantage I'm at here is that because this is a comm tower map, I do not get to, enjoy the penalty that Colin sees on his units. His units cost 20% less to build. That is insane. And he only sees a 10% reduction in power, but who friggin' cares when you're dropping Neo tanks while your opponent has to put out mid tanks? Colin is crazy strong. And because of that comm tower, which is very much non-contestable, I'm not going to see that at all. He's going to be at 100% power. Obviously, I am also going to see a huge hike in power with my indirects jumping all the way to 130% once I get that comm tower myself, so there's that. Anyway, I'm just going to jump through the first few turns. We're going to skip the real, the really basic stuff. Oh, maybe? Yeah, there it goes. Oof, this one's having... Okay, I guess I'm... Okay, it's catching up, just some very basic stuff here. The initial capping stuff. I immediately take the lander given to me as... I'm player 2, I had an extra infantry as first turn advantage counter. I immediately take the lander and load it up for turn 3 to just jump into mid-map. Look at that. He's this is so not fair. He built a tank on turn 3 and just and still had enough income to build another infantry. Like, he hasn't... it's just... It's obnoxious what he can do. Like, if I want to build a tank here, it's all of my income. But he can build a, you know, a tank and an infantry. Like, that is Colin. Early game Colin is so unbelievably threatening. Because he can actually build high movement vehicles very quickly, and you have to be able to deal with them. And if you can't, you just lose. But I luck out here. He only puts a tank across into the middle section here, which, like, in my mind, I'm thinking, well, maybe that means I can, you know, like, I can build my own tank. I can bring it across as he's moving it across. We can fight, and I won't have to worry about him contesting this too much. He didn't bring 2 tanks. He brought 1 tank, so he brought no infantry as well. So I'm like, maybe there. One of my very early misplays actually came before this game even started. I was playing a second game simultaneously with this one. Across, like, the same, like, 2-week period that had stealths banned in it. And I, for the entirety of this game, assumed stealths were banned in this one and not the other one. I just forgot which game had stealths banned. So, yeah, that's a thing. So, here comes Colin's tank to interrupt my cap. I can't really do anything about that right now. I make a mistake here. I should not have moved this lander here. I should have moved it here so I could put the tank on the forest. I mean, he's still going to get, like, it's a 20%, like, he's still going to have a defense advantage over me. It was going to be his 30% versus my 20%, or his 20% versus my 10%. But it would have at least slightly decreased the damage I took. And I at the end of the day, I don't think it really mattered, but I build my first artillery here on turn 6, okay? I want you to or on turn 5. I want you to just pay attention to that. This is turn 5. I have 1 artillery. He has 2 tanks already built. Reminder, artilleries cost less than tanks. So, I find it interesting he actually attacked this infantry, because he was in range, I believe, right? Yeah, oh yeah, he was absolutely in range to attack this infantry instead, and cover this city, and keep himself, like, out of attack range. Like, that was just, I don't know. That was an odd play on his part. That was a misplay. No, it wasn't an odd play. It was a misplay. He absolutely should not have done that. Advancing out here to the side. I'm advancing more slowly because I do not have an APC of my own. So it is very imperative to me to get an artillery up into this corner right here. This corner will severely block how much he can move units through the center. If I have an artillery there, at least his light vehicles. And if I can do that, I can sort of alleviate early game pressure. He's already built a second lander, which is obnoxious to me. He luckily does not have his comm tower yet, though, so right now, this is so dumb. My tank is exactly as strong as his, because while Colin gets a 20% cost reduction on all of his units, he only sees a 10% penalty on them. Grit, however, sees a 20% penalty on all of his non-indirect, non-infantry units. So yeah, that's not great. Colin's very strong. Is like, and I know that, like, I'm complaining a lot about that, but, like, that's not his fault. Like, he is totally allowed to pick this CO. It's just, it's so insane to me that they thought that was a good enough balance. Like, this isn't Hachi, where all of his units are 100% power and cost 10 less. They're like, no, 20% less and only 10%. That's it, you know. And Hachi's a secret character in the games. You have to unlock him. Colin, you just have, because he's one of the main game CEOs. Like, I don't know. This was another interesting play for him. In my opinion, he just joins these 2 tanks, as opposed to keeping the 5 HP tank. I don't really get why he would do that. But look at this. Turn 7, here's the first mid-tank. Okay. Cool. And he still has 2,000 income, or 2,000 gold or whatever left. He can still just buy another infantry too. He doesn't, though, which was worrying to me when I saw it. I'm like, oh god, he's going to buy something expensive next turn. So I'm building out here to the side, just trying to get these last cities. It's going to become kind of obvious here in a minute, but this is sort of the last of what I can really hope to cap. He's going, like, because he has this APC, he can move in and, if nothing else, just body block some of these cities. And now that he has his airport, it's obviously not really worth attempting to move up to try and cap these contested cities, because he can just build a very cheap battlecopter, and I won't be able to do anything about it. So these are the last real cities I'm going to be able to cap here, and then hopefully this one in the center. And so here's where the fun begins. I think I made a mistake last turn, actually. I just kind of want to jump back here. I had the option to engage on this tank. I'm sorry. Excuse me. But I chose not to. That's a no downside play to me. Like, a first strike on this is going to do, you know, especially because it was on a 1 defense tile. Like, I was going to do a solid chunk of damage to it. Probably like, let's just calc it, actually. I'd like to thank whoever showed me that I can just select units like this. Yeah. 50%, give or take. The fire back damage wouldn't have been right because it was showing me on a city, but 50% give or take, and then that would have just negated essentially the join he did, and then he would have either had to move it back, you know, onto a city to heal, or just, you know, sack it to trade, which, excuse me, would have been fine with me. So here comes the mid-tank onto, oh my god, on the center. There's the battlecopter. Here's an anti-air, which I found very interesting. Anti-airs aren't necessarily super useful against Grit. Like, they're, I mean, they're strong against all my infantry, and I do spam infantry. But if you're going to trade a unit with an infantry, you know, to be able to get in on artillery, on Grit's artillery, tanks are better because they're cheaper. Although, again, this is Colin. Who cares? Everything's cheap for Colin. So I begin building. I begin building my little wall here, my wall of units. At this point, it's already time for the standard Grit play, which is you build a wall of units, you put a bunch of artillery behind it, and then you just kind of hope your opponent moves into your range and kills themselves. I'm going to talk more about Grit and talk more about how he plays and why he's broken here in a minute, but... Oh, yeah, hold on. I need to talk about this. So, the end of his turn. Let's see this thing that Colin does on turn 9 for 17,000 income. He builds a bomber. It's turn 9, my guy. I have 3 artilleries, 2 tanks, and an anti-air. He has a battlecopter, a bomber. He's had 2 tanks, but he joined them. A mid-tank and an anti-air. And a second lander. Like, who balanced to the CO? So I'm in very much... This is where I'm going to start taking, like, turn-to-turn sort of... like, move by move, I'm going to start talking about everything I do here. So the bomber sort of put me on on edge hugely here, because it's very, very difficult to deal with for me. My anti-airs won't even kill it in one shot. Like, a 90% anti-air is not going to one-shot a bomber. And it's literally all I'm going to have to deal with it. So I have to start building more anti-airs here. So I'd already built this anti-air last turn because of his battlecopter, so now, obviously, I just have to start moving it up. But now I have to go into full turtle mode. I cannot, like, I can't advance at all. Moving forward is a loss for me. It has to become full turtle from this point on. I choose to answer his... I choose to answer his bomber with a rocket. Grit's rockets are incredibly powerful. They are... Like... they are like one of the hardest things in the entire game to deal with. Because of their absolutely massive range, there is not a lot that like enemy units can do to get in on it. It actually just outranges mid-tanks. Grit's 6-range rockets cannot be like interacted with in any way, shape, or form by mid-tanks. Because literally they cannot get close enough to attack it in one turn. So rockets are going to... Rockets. I keep saying rockets. Yeah, rockets, sorry. Rockets are going to be, like, very important for me to try and, like, close off areas to sort of limit his options to approach. I need to keep his ground units out while I build income and units to deal with his air units. Because his air units, more than anything, are going to be the problem. Like, I can deal with grounded units. I can put out infantry. I can put artillery behind those infantry. I can put rockets behind those artillery. And I will be fine. What I cannot do is just... I can't deal with, like, a spam of battlecopters. Or even worse, spam of bombers. And even worse, spam of stealths that I didn't know were actually legal on this map. The only way to attack a stealth is when it's hidden is to have a unit next to it with an anti-air, and I think or a fighter. I think that's it, actually. I don't even know if you can do it with missiles. I feel like you should be able to. I don't know. So I move this infantry up essentially to eat a KO from this mid tank that wants to come up, and then I have fixed this artillery here. I also have to start moving artillery up. Like, I need to have ranged units here on this bottom portion of the middle map, and I need to have ranged units here, locking down the actual middle map and then the right side of the map. I need to make it so nothing can come into this center area. Because because I put my anti-air here instead of here. So this was a hard choice for me on that last turn. I needed to drop both the artillery and the anti-air on the same turn. And my choices were to either do it here or do it here, obviously. Putting the artillery here helps me better close off this center area because as you can see, it covers in front of this artillery. But in doing so, I keep my anti-air a little bit too far away to actually threaten the battlecopter well. So, unfortunately, he gets to just move the battlecopter up, and I can't do anything about it. So he moves the anti-air in to kill my infantry, which sucks. And then the mid-tank in to deal a ton of damage to my artillery, which luckily some of that will get healed off at the beginning of my next turn, but... that's just a chunk I didn't want to have to take. And then over here, he's starting to cap my cities because I really can't afford to start moving a lot of units over here. I have to fortify the center and the right to deal with these things. This was really good on him, by the way. All of this infantry spam over here is really smart on his part because I can't deal with it. I can't get infantry over there to fight his infantry. I can't build a battlecopter to fight his infantry because that's too much money that would be spent not dealing with everything in the center. So this is all very smart on his part. Oh, excuse me. So I move this artillery down just to start healing on this city and also to... be the first unit that is going to fortify this area because at this point, there's no point in having it on this city. I also just wasn't sure how I wanted to deal with this little disturbance here. So if this anti-air moves here and kills this infantry, obviously it'll stop my cap. I have no way of dealing with that. Nothing's covering that cap. See, that's not far enough. And obviously these aren't going to be far enough. But it'll leave this mid-tank to not be able to kill either of these units, so I'll still have a small wall blocking anything here in the center, which is useful to me. So here comes the bomber. And then here comes the tank to damage my anti-air. And yeah, there goes the anti-air to deal with my cap. So I'm not going to get that capture anymore. It's just not going to happen. And then he actually rather smartly pulls the mid-tank away rather than trying to deal just some meaningless damage on these units that I have here to die anyway. Oh, I forgot to mention this on the last turn. I want to talk about this now. So I built a rocket right here. I didn't build a rocket here. I built a missile here. God, I always get these two confused. Okay, I'm back. Sorry, someone just came home. And I just had to say hi, basically. So yeah, I built a missile down here. That... I'm not going to say it was a mistake, but it's not... It's... Okay, so on my last turn, I was playing this part on my phone, mind you. This is not at my PC, so I'm doing everything on touchscreen right now. I was seriously considering, like, do I build a missile here and move it up and try and use that to cover a larger amount of space and guarantee, you know, one shot KOs on, like, every aerial unit in the game? Or do I just build more anti-airs or artilleries and just move those up and try and fortify? Like, my anti-airs can at least severely damage bombers, and then obviously they can deal with copters. And what ended up happening is I ended up just accidentally tapping on missiles, so I built them. So at this point, I'm like, all right, I'm all in on the missile plan now, I guess. Missiles are generally a terrible thing to build. They have tires, which severely restricts their movements over everything other than roads and shoals. They have only 4 movement, I think, to begin with. Yeah, they only have 4 movement. And their range isn't actually long enough for any CO other than Grit to hold off any... even battlecopters, because they only have 3 to 5 range for everyone else. Grit luckily has 6 range, which means it's a lot harder for at least battlecopters to get in on them. They can't sit, you know, 6 away and then use their 6 movement to get in on it. So yeah, I did build that. So he's already started to see that, like, I've built to stop any advancement from the top here. So he's moving everything now to the left to try and move in through here. And also, as you may know, he's technically already threatening my my HQ. He's got a lot of infantry over here. He's got a powerful force. I don't have a lot blocking that. And he used his power this turn. I should explain that. I kind of forgot. Colin's CO power, which builds incredibly quickly because it's only 2 pips, increases his banked income, like the income he has currently ready to spend, by 50%. So it just gives him more money. So because of that, he gets to build a Neo tank and his own rockets on this turn. Now, the one lucky thing is this rockets is a misplay on his part. His rockets can't really threaten me once I have my own rockets out, because again, they're just outranged. He can't get, like, if I have a rocket, you know, walling off something, he can't actually move his rocket in because it will just die without having been able to hit anything. So yeah, I don't necessarily agree with that play. So as you can see, I've already started I started capping the city. He's unfortunately still going to be able to stop it, or at least slow it down with this infantry, because it'll still be able to get in through this mountain. But I've already decided, look, nope, I gotta move this infantry back to my HQ because it needs to be protected. And then I actually make the choice here to attack this battlecopter to essentially like incapacitate it. I wasn't going to do very much damage to the bomber, and with that I was just going to lose my anti-air if I did it that way. So I chose to do it this way. Now, my other big mistake here is, so I moved this missile in, which covers a lot of space, but as you can see, it doesn't cover this space right here, which means this bomber is free to move in right here, or more dangerously, it's free to move right here. Now, I don't think he realized this, but blowing up this lander would have actually just caused me to lose the game. And I did not see that right away. I build a battlecopter of my own. This is literally going to be like my one thing to try and protect this HQ. And then I just build a ton of infantry. So he comes in and he takes the chance to deal a hefty chunk to this artillery. But I think if he had done that, I honestly feel like that should have been able to kill the lander. I might be wrong about that. I don't know how strong landers are. Yeah, that had a very solid chance to kill my lander. If he had killed my lander, I am just out of this game. Because I'd have to build another one. I'd have to build another one, essentially, just to start moving units to the center again. And he could literally just respond to me wasting funds on that by moving his bomber in and killing whatever else I build in here. So, like, it would have been really bad for me. Interestingly, he never actually killed... He wasted an infantry on this... my own infantry here. Like, he wasted HP he didn't need to there. This is another, like, good movement right here, because as you can see, I can't actually hit with this rocket, so... And then at this point, like, so, okay, this is turn 12. I've got nothing, basically, here in the middle. I've got very little, I should say. There's a bomber that's at full health right here. There is a Neo-tank now advancing on me. There's a mid-tank also in here that I'm, like, threatening me that I can't really do much about. He's got infantry moving towards my HQ with an anti-air that is going to fight the only thing that I have to fight off the infantry. This is not great for me. All of my artillery are damaged too. Like, this is getting grim pretty quick. So I pop my CO power right here. I can't remember if there was something I was specifically trying to hit with that. I think it was just to get the most amount of damage out of the things I'm about to do. Yeah. Grits, by the way, look at that. I mean, I know it was only 5 HP, but like, Grit Artillery 9 HP, just bomb, gone. That's fantastic to me. So I have to forgo capping the city, which, fantastic, even less money for me. Because I have to put a big hit on this artillery, or on this anti-air. Because again, this copter is the only thing right now that I have protecting my HQ, and I can't have that anti-air killing it. So I go ahead and throw away my anti-air to deal 4 damage to this bomber, and then I make this super cheeky play. I move all of my units just surrounding it. Like, screw it. Something's gonna eat a hit from this bomber, probably die, but at the very least, I've dealt with it now. This anti-air will kill it next turn. That's literally the best thing I had to do here. And again, like, at this point, I'm like, oh my god, I don't see a win here, like, at all. he's so far ahead just on income, on units, on power on board. Like it's like I have more units than he does, right? I have 25 to his 21, but I've got a 1 HP artillery. I've got a 1 HP infantry. I've got a 3 HP infantry. I've got a 4 HP mech. Like, these are just useless. I've got a missile, which, I mean, that doesn't hit the vast majority of what he's got. And yeah, I've damaged some of his units. And I'm going to kill this bomber, but he can already just build another one next turn. He can build one every turn, in fact. It's looking grim for me. I do take this chance, however, to buy a second lander. This is very important to me because with a second lander, I can now, like, I can load one lander, move it to the center, unload that lander, and then return the other lander ready to get loaded the next turn and just keep doing that. Like, I can move units every single turn. So there he is, popping his power again. Look at that. His power costs this. So this is what his power will cost the next time he uses it. 2520. Mine's at 3240, and this is already the second time he's used it. I've only used mine once, and it still costs more than his to use the third time. Like, Colin is so not okay. This was an odd choice to me, although I get it. This tank won't be able to interrupt this cap. This cap anyway, but he decides to move the Neo tank in to fight that tank rather than just fight it with this one. I don't know if that's necessarily the right move, but again, he's Colin. Like, why would you have to worry about what is and isn't a good move? Just keep building all the strongest units, and eventually you'll win because you have 12 Neo tanks to their, like, 6 mid tanks. Who cares? This is another, like, so, how do I put this? So, artilleries are some of the best units in the entire game. I think I'm going to talk about this now. Artilleries are super strong in Advanced Wars. The reason for that should be obvious. One, they can't be counterattacked. And artillery is just going to hit something on its own, deal the flat damage, and take nothing in return. They're cheap. They only cost 6,000. Tanks, just light, like regular tanks, cost 7,000. Anti-airs cost 8,000. Artillery only costs 6,000. That's really cheap for a unit that's as powerful as it is. And artilleries can just take out some of the strongest units in the game very easily. I think it takes 2 shots from an artillery to kill a mid-tank. I don't even talk about grit artillery. I'm talking about just regular 100% artilleries. Like, no penalty from, like, being, like, max or something, right? Not that you ever want to build artilleries as max anyway. They hold choke points really well, so, like, that's why in a lot of games, a lot of, like, higher level games, you'll see, like, the vast majority of it is just spam a ton of infantry, and then spam a lot of artillery. And just sort of wall off like that, and then just sort of hope someone blinks first, right? Hope your opponent blinks first, decides to make the first move, kill a bunch of your infantry, and then lose a bunch of their units to your artilleries. I mean, I'm trying my best here. I've built all the infantry. I just can't seem to get any of the actual ranged units out here yet, because I'm so busy dealing with everything else. With all of that said, it's very odd to me that my opponent chose to build ranged units in this game, because his ranged units are bad. And I don't mean that, like, because they're Colin or something like that. I mean because he is up against grit. Like, if he loses the line battle, and I start being the one to advance the front lines towards him, his ranged units don't matter to me. Because I can stick my infantry, like, I can stick my artillery outside of his infantry range, that he would use to wall me out and just pick them off. And there's nothing he could do about it. I can, if he doesn't have that wall of infantry, I can just move my ranged units in front of his ranged units and kill his ranged units because mine have the 1 additional range. This is what makes Grit so powerful. This is what makes Grit tier 0. This is what makes Grit so ridiculously difficult for lower tier COs to deal with. The fact that he can just sort of... He gets to do what every CO wants to do, but in doing that, he also stops other COs from doing it. Like, that's what you want, at least on like a no-fog. I should point this out. On a no-fog map. You want to build that wall of infantry, and you want to just put some, you know, your best units behind it. And artilleries are really cheap, and they're really strong. So those are usually the best units for a very long time until, you know, income becomes a lot higher, and you can start putting out even better units. Grit's artilleries are... Like, Grit's artilleries are like... I don't even know how to describe it. It's like being able to build a mid-tank for half the cost. Less than half the cost. A mid-tank costs 16,000. An artillery only costs 6. And that's before we even get into, obviously, like his rockets. His rockets are insanely oppressive. Just absolutely closing down entire portions of the map. Like, they're strong enough to deal, like, 9 damage to... like mid-tanks. I think it's like 7 damage to neo-tanks. It's something insane like that. And again, we can just find out thanks to this handy-dandy calculator. 7 to 8 damage. Oh, I'm in CO power right now. I'm sorry. Yeah. So this will be, you know, it says 5, but it's basically 6. So, you know, 6 damage just to. Oh, he's also in power. Haha, I was wrong again. It's still just sort of. Let's just keep that. So yeah, it's going to be like, you know, high 5, low 7 damage. Like, to a Neo-Tank. That's crazy. Like, incapacitating a Neo-Tank, obviously incredibly strong. And it to say nothing of what it does to, like, mid-tanks, which just can't even, like, properly approach against it. So, Grit absolutely deserves his placing in that tier. But, again, because of that, this is all very weird to me. The fact that he built this artillery, the fact that he built this rocket. Like, this artillery can't do anything. Like, absolutely nothing. It's gonna sit back, try not to die, and almost certainly fail because look at this range. I mean, I understand I'm in my CO power right now, but, like, this covers, like, half the map. You can't fight that with this. Like, it doesn't work. Anyway, back into the actual game. Chunks my tank here. Whatever. Like I said, it's just been there to die. So I choose... Like, I'm like, I have to play defensively here at this point. I choose to just sit my helicopter on top of my HQ so that, like, you know, he can attack it with his Neo Tank. It won't do a ton of damage, but he can start taking chunks out of it, and this way I just sort of like because there's not really anything else I can do with this copter anyways. Like, other than that, like, I can't move it up to fight these. Like, it doesn't trade well with a Neo Tank. I'll deal like 2 damage and take like 2 damage back. And then he just have this, what's going to be a 5 HP anti-air to just kill it, essentially. So, right now, it's just going to be here to body block. Luckily, he's down to only 2 infantry over here, so at least he's not, like, super threatening to cap my my HQ. But then, as I was just talking about, like, look at this. He is in range of my rockets. I am not in range of his rockets. His only option next turn with this rocket is to either move it back or move it up to try and threaten me, and then also put something else I have to deal with up there. So, like, I don't feel like it's the right choice. So finally, that stupid bomber is gone. Not that it matters. He's already got another one to replace it. I take some time to clean up this infantry over here. I don't... Like, I'm not going to be able to stop him from capping what he's, like, already basically got here. He's going to get this huge income advantage over me. But at the very least, I can stop him from flipping my cities. I moved this missile up because, again, it's not in range of the rockets or anything like that. It's not in range of anything. And it just covers a big amount of space. Like, it covers basically everything around here. Like, all of the units that I have out. And that way, like, if he decides to move in with an aerial unit, I can just sort of force a trade. Like, you can kill one thing of mine, but I will 100% kill, you know, whatever you put in there. And then finally, I can start doing what Grit actually wants to do, which is just triple artillery. I think it is time for some water. Give me a moment. Oh my god, I hate when Thunder Blunder drinks water on his recordings, and now I'm doing it. I'm such a piece of shit. So, this is where the staring match begins. This is how it always sort of turns out when you're in a... like, when you're in a higher tier sort of CO game. I don't mean, like, higher tier skill. I'm not claiming to be of a higher tier in skill, but I'm saying just, like, two higher tier COs. He moves his units in, but obviously doesn't really attack anything over here. But he makes a mistake. So he did what I said. He moved the Neo Tank in to sort of say, you have to deal with this Neo Tank. And then he also moved his rockets in so that he can get a hit on me with them, like try to make them useful. The thing is, I think he thought I wouldn't be willing to trade this helicopter for those rockets. He is absolutely wrong, because in doing that now, I take 5 of his HP, and now I can just 7 damage. And then I can move this tank in, and it's dead. Like, it's at 1 HP. It's not a threat anymore. And here we see where, like, the 2 landers starts to become very useful. So, I get to move this lander up, but while also moving this lander down. And then, because of the way it works, see, I had 3 units there. One of them is going to move in. I'm going to build on my next turn, and then that one will... Or on this turn, and then on my next turn, it'll be able to move in as well, and then I'll just be able to transfer that. As the other 2 get built and this moves down, those 2 go on it next turn. Like, it's just... This is why the 2 landers is very useful. So obviously there's not going to be anything aerial coming from this side of the map. Unless he wants to take a very long route for it, which, he could. It might not be a terrible idea, but... For the time being, everything aerial is going to come from the right side of the map. So it's important to me to fortify not just with artillery over here, but also with anti-airs, which is why I built another anti-air here. So with the weakened rockets, the weakened Neo Tank, and with the juicy helicopter that he absolutely has to kill right now with his anti-air, which means this anti-air... I mean, even if he had another way to kill this battlecopter, like, like with multiple units, I still think that the sort of better choice is to just use this one. So he's not going to be able to get that in. The only real unit he has that can attack in here, like anything in here, is going to be this tank, which actually, you can't see it, but there's a forest tile right here, there's a forest tile right here. Because of that, he actually can't get to this rocket. So this tank can only actually attack this infantry. I was actually very surprised I survived that. And there's his gold rush again, just to increase his money. I think he did it also to increase his damage output here, which is the right choice. I mean, there's never a bad time to use Gold Rush. He does get, you know, I think because of that he ends up doing 1 more damage than he would have. I think that would have just done 3 otherwise. This is getting out of hand over here, though. Look at this. 2 bombers, a battlecopter, a neo tank, a regular tank, and I have a handful of infantry, 3 of which are almost dead, 1 anti-air, and 1 artillery. And unfortunately, this missile is 1 shot too far away from this bomber. Now, I say 1 shot because I have my CO power ready, so I can extend that range by 1. And just, you know, casual, another bomber, another neo tank. Mind you, these cost, to me, 22,000 and what is it, 24,000, I think? It's fine. His daily income of 25,000. He built both, you know. Gold Rush, totally fine. So I go ahead and just pop the power. This is going to essentially allow me to clear up what's happening over here. I made a mistake right there. No, I didn't make a mistake right there because this, I was gonna say this, using this artillery to kill that neo tank, but it's actually the only thing it could hit anyway. So I just used that. I'm just picking off any unit I essentially that I can over here, and then I start moving everything now over to the right because this isn't a huge threat. On this side, this is a big problem though, and I unfortunately essentially have to just start using these artilleries as bodies now because of this bomber. Now I also need to point this out. So this turn in particular, I made a huge mistake. So I had my turn, like my turn started and I saw the board, but I didn't get to take my turn right away. I was doing this on my phone again. I don't remember where I was. I was either at work during like a down period, or I was out like on my Magic the Gathering night playing Magic with some guys and stuff like that, and I was just like between games, and so I couldn't take the turn originally, but I had sort of planned everything out, and in that planning I'm like, I need to build an anti-air right here, that way the bomber can't come down. But then later when I got the chance to actually take the turn, I just sort of blanked on that and went immediately back to building artilleries. This is a huge problem, because now this bomber can just move straight down and attack this artillery, and there's nothing I can do about it. Like, I have no way to cover that. It's just free damage. I'm still upset about that happening. This looks weird, I'm sure, capping this city again, but again, it just sort of forces him to use like something. Like, either this artillery doesn't move in, or this tank fights this and leaves itself open. Like, it forces him to do something to this infantry so that I don't get this city if he wants to stop me from capping the city. And if he doesn't want to stop me from capping the city, then I'll just cap the city. Like, that's... I also built another battlecopter here. That is because his anti-air is quite weak right now. Of course, it is about to go back to 5 HP, but at the very least, I might be able to move this battlecopter up over here, and again, sort of just like, I'm trying to force him to buy stuff that isn't this crazy powerful against me, basically. So he does end up using his 2 units there to stop that capture, which is good for me, because it means they don't move up to try and fight anything I have. This was actually really good for me here, him moving this Neo tank up to fight that anti-air. Like, I get why he did it. That's the only thing threatening his actual air units over here. But it was still, like, I still feel like that was lucky for me because it means I can kill it, basically, and just not have to deal with it now. Because that's his only really strong ground presence over here. So it's the only thing that my artillery can really deal with anyway. And he's going to let me deal with it, which is great for me. So in comes the tank also on the left side. It does very little damage. It does 3 damage, 2 of which gets healed off. So I'm not super worried about that right now. But, again, I can't let this infantry come in and start taking stuff for free. So it is something I'm going to have to deal with. Take out the Neo-Tank, like I said. Also attempt to take out the regular tank with the infantry here. I needed a luck roll in order to get that kill, and I didn't, which makes me sad. Excuse me, I'm very tired. I just yawned really loud. I don't know if you heard that. I hope you didn't hear that. Haha, 1 HP anti-air does 2 damage to a battlecopter. I'm very happy about that. So I end up building double anti-air over here just to sort of force out this bomber. He retreats units here, which is good for me because now that anti-air isn't covering this tank. So this battlecopter can move up and fight it if I need to. He built a lot of low-cost stuff last turn, which, again, just means he gets to build a lot of high-cost stuff this turn. He currently has 4 full HP bombers on the battlefield, which, oh my god. But, it's not all doom and gloom now. So despite how much I've been complaining, but despite how much powerful stuff he has, I actually feel like I'm in a really good spot at this point. I've finally gotten to do what I want to do as Grit, which is put a bunch of artillery out. Like, look at that. I have, what is it, 8 artillery out right now? Yeah, I have 8 artillery on the battlefield right now, as well as 2 rockets. Like, that's really good. Like, that's really, really good. I finally get to do what I want to do. Now, the big problem is I don't have a lot of weight, like, I don't have a lot of bodies to block them. But the upside to that is he doesn't have a lot of stuff to move in on them. So I don't really need to yet. Like, at best, he's threatening to trade a Neo-Tank for 1 artillery, which I will take that trade any day of the week. I don't care that his Neo-Tanks cost less than 20 grand to build. It's still significantly more than the 6 grand it takes me to build an artillery. So this is actually, like, I'm not going to say it's good for me. Like, I'm still in a very not great position at this moment because of everything he has. But I'm in a, like, I'm doing the Grit things. I'm giving myself the best chance to win currently. It's also right here that I noticed he did not use Gold Rush last turn, so it becomes obvious to me he's waiting to use Power of Money. Power of Money is not something that Colin generally uses, but it is going to be the thing he wants to use when he finally moves in. The way Power of Money works, or not Power of Money, Gold Rush. No, wait, which one is which? Yeah, Power of Money. The way Power of Money works is it takes his current banked income, multiplies it by 3, and then divides it by 1,000. And then that is the percent power increase that all of his units get. So next turn when he gets 25 grand from all of his cities, essentially you would just multiply the first 2 numbers there by 3. Obviously, that's not the perfect way to do it because if there's, other big numbers here in the 100 spots, that can give him a couple extra percentage. But he'll get 75%, a 75% increase in power when he uses the Power of Money, on top of the 10% attack and defense he gets just from using a CO power to begin with. So now I'm realizing, okay, he's getting ready to push. Like, that's his plan. He wants to push. He wants to use all of that power to just sort of kill anything he can. Because when he does that, even these little tanks are going to be able to deal... I think, honestly, with that much power, especially with the comm tower behind it, they're probably going to be able to kill just about anything. So... I should have... The reason I couldn't... I wanted to move up and fight this tank, but the reason I couldn't is because it would just die to this anti-air, and I can't let that happen yet. So here's just some unit shifting. I actually end up choosing to build a second missile here, which, again, I just said missiles are really bad, but it feels like it's going to be super necessary. Now, the thing is, for him, in order for him to actually use power money, he has to obviously charge it. So he is going to have to put some stuff out there to either let me kill, or he's going to have to, like, find a way to take free kills, which currently he can't really do. And this is where it becomes good that I built that second missile. He has chosen to move a bomber over to the middle of the map, and now it's not being covered by this missile. Having a second missile, like right here, is going to cover the entire center of the map. Something that's starting, I also feel like that's starting to come into play that I didn't actually expect him to play, because it doesn't happen with me. As you can see, both of my landers still have a lot of fuel. One of his landers is getting really low on fuel, and the other ones are already down to half as well. I have been purposefully parking landers in my port so that they get refueled. He has not been doing that, so that can come into play. If his landers sink, if one of his landers sinks, like, it just means it slows him down on getting units to the middle. So yeah, he's moved everything out. He's done the... Again, we've moved back to the sort of generic sort of we're both dangerous, so no one wants to approach phase. The double melee Marth, as it were. So yeah, so I move a second missile up here to this. I don't do it right away, but I do move a second missile up here to the side. So now with that, the problem is this. Obviously, this missile doesn't cover up here. I actually kind of wanted to put, like, I should have put the missile right here. If I'd done that, it would have covered everything. Like, but I wanted to cover in case, like in case he decides he wants to kill this artillery with this bomber or something like that. I want to be able to cover this bomber with this missile and still be able to cover these bombers with this missile. So, still, it probably would have been better to actually swap these two positions. I've also started kind of aggressively moving this anti-air just to sort of like put it in range of all of his bombers, because the bombers won't kill it. They'll do a ton of damage to it if they're not within, you know, power of money, mind you. The bombers won't kill it, but they'll do a big chunk of damage, but it'll hit back okay. It'll heal health, and then I can just hit it back again. So, again, that's a favorable trade for me. This is unfortunate right here, and again, this was probably like a mistake on my part. So I need to move some infantry over here to start fortifying this wall. But this lander couldn't get there from where it was parked. So what I should have done instead is move this lander like over here and drop the infantry here to put more bodies here as well. And then I could have put infantry here and then move this lander over next turn, and just, it would have been one turn slower, but either way it's going to take me 2 turns because of that, how it, like, oops, because of how I didn't have anywhere to drop them this turn anyway, so. So again, he's getting aggressive over here by my by my HQ. His anti-air is now back at 9 HP, which means I can't actually keep this copter over here anymore. And I mean, look at that. At this point, we have essentially the same thing. We have a huge cluster of units just sort of sitting, waiting for someone to make a move. Oh, I also didn't point this out. I did build a fighter on my last turn. It just became, like, it has become too important to be able to deal with his bombers to not have this. Fighters have insane range, 9 movement. The highest movement in the entire game. And the only thing that can fight them is anti-airs, but the only thing they can fight are aerial units. But again, because he's building, like, because he's shown that he wants to just build bombers as much as possible, I just sort of have to do this. So this turn's kind of just, yeah, not a lot happening here. Oh, so this was another mistake, and by, like, so this is, again, just a mistake from me having been playing on a touchscreen on my phone. I did not want to move this infantry here. I wanted to move this anti-air here, and then I wanted to drop another infantry right here. It was going to be this anti-air to here, this infantry here, this infantry here. That is unfortunately not what happened. Instead, I thought I was moving this anti-air. I was instead moving this infantry. And because I did that, I ended up with an infantry that I couldn't move out of this lander, which sucks. So this is just him, like, he's just sacrificing units down here to sort of build up his CO superpower, and I can't really do anything about that. This is good for him. This APC is going to, like, this was a smart APC. It's going to refuel both these units here, so that was actually very smart on his part. And again, he's just throwing away units to build up the CO superpower, but I sort of have to let him do that. Like, I have to attack these units so I don't, you know, I don't lose mine. But I take this chance to use snipe attack, my CO power, because at this point, because I'm, you know, I'm starting to, like I said, I have to attack some of this stuff. Because of that, I know I'm going to give him CO power on the CO superpower on the next turn. And I'm like, maybe the 10% defense can at least help me keep a little bit of, like, a few things alive. And it also allows me to preemptively stop, like, some of these, like, these, even though these tanks are generally very weak, they are almost certainly going to deal a tremendous amount of damage to me. Like, they're very likely to be able to just one-shot most of the, like, artillery, or, yeah, the artilleries that I have. So this was another mistake, by the way, you may have just seen. I thought I had loaded this artillery onto the lander. I did not, so there's supposed to be an artillery here. Now there isn't. Not that it really matters. He only has this tank that could have moved into its range anyway, and there's still this artillery covering that area, so it's not really that big a deal. And I'm starting to get aggressive over here with my infantry as well. Again, it's sort of just like a, you have to deal with this, or I am going to start taking these cities kind of thing. Moving this missile over here might seem kind of odd, but it's obviously it's only going to extend to here, not to here. But it covers a lot of range. Like, it covers this bomber moving down to kill this infantry, which it's like, it's just a little cheeky kind of a play. And then because I have this fighter here, I don't need to cover as much space between these two, even though, again, these are still covering a lot of space. The other thing is, like I said, fighters can only be taken out by anti-airs and I guess also missiles. So this will be just like a body that blocks everything while it's here. So here comes Power of Money, and yep, just like I thought, tanks can absolutely destroy artilleries here. Luckily, he had to waste using that Neo tank on an infantry, which is good for me. There goes one of my missiles, or one of my rockets, I mean. So this is a big blowout for me. I'm losing a lot of units here. I cannot believe he did this, though. I honestly cannot believe he chose to use that. Like, that is such a... He's trading a 7 HP infantry for a full HP bomber. That is insane to me. So everything is moved in. I've just lost a ton of units. I just lost, what is it? I lost 4 artilleries, I think. 4 artilleries, an anti-air, a rocket. I've taken over half on this artillery here. An infantry. But not much else beyond that. Like, I'm hurt. Like, that is a huge amount of losses for me. But I feel like, honestly, for him having made that huge push and put all of his extremely expensive units in danger, I felt like I came out okay there. So now it's my turn to retaliate. And this is why so many games of Advanced Wars turn into staring matches, because I don't think he actually came out ahead on this. He definitely got to destroy a lot of my units. But, like, look at everything he's losing because of it. So he's already lost 3 bombers. Another one is at 2 HP. Another one is at 4 HP. So these ones, like, this one's dead. This one's still capable of dealing damage to stuff, though. So, like, that can't be understated. Both of his Neo tanks are now at half health. And despite the fact that I lost 2 artilleries, no, not 2 artilleries, but despite the fact that I lost so many artilleries, I've already got multiple artilleries ready to replace them. This is again where grit being grit is super just super strong. This was a mistake, by the way. There is no reason he should have attacked this missile with this bomber. Like, I understand that his only other real choices were infantry or anti-airs, but honestly, he should have just attacked the anti-airs. This missile only threatens his aerial units anyways, but these anti-airs can threaten infantry and other anti-airs. So it's insane to me that he's actually going to trade those things. And then even weirder here is that he chose to merge to join those 2 units. Because again, I have a full HP anti-air here that can just move there and kill it, and I'm pretty sure even these anti-airs will kill it, so. It's also kind of weird to me that he didn't attack any of my artilleries with this battlecopter, which I feel like he definitely should have. But I guess he wanted to attack this. Like, I don't know that necessarily does any more damage. Like, they're both at 8 HP, and this one's on a defensive tile, so I don't see the reason for that play there. Oh, the other reason not to attack this is this fighter's going to kill it anyway. I actually don't have to use any of my anti-airs to kill it. He does get a solid hit off with his 3 HP anti-air on it, but that's not really going to be enough to matter. An 8 HP fighter will still almost kill a bomber. Like, it'll still do like 7 to 8 damage, which will severely incapacitate it, so I'm not really worried about that. Was that bass coming from my music or something outside? And again, so now I get my superpower now too. This is like not the best CO superpower I could have, because I don't have a lot of units. Like, I don't have a lot of ranged units in range of his units. But I mean, I get to kill that anti-air from there with an artillery. Look at this range on this artillery. That is missile range for other people. That is rocket range for other people. That is just grit artillery. That's so insane. So again, I just get to start cleaning up his units. And now, honest to God, it was at this moment I'm like, oh, I just won, didn't I? Like, that's it. The game is over. I have won. Because he made that big push, because he decided to push right then and there, and because he did not, like, annihilate my entire army in doing it, I won the game. Like, that's just what happened. He lost all of his most expensive units, and I still just have an army of artilleries out here, a huge handful of anti-airs, and I still have more ready to come. And what's interesting here is I am winning the money battle, despite the fact that he has more money than me and his units cost less. Because the units he wants to build are the really expensive ones, and he still, despite the fact that they cost, less, he still can't afford more than 1 or 2 a turn. But I can always afford 3 artillery every turn. And that's it. That's all I need. I just need to be able to afford 3 artillery every turn. The other big thing is, because he only has access to 1 airport, like, this is actually, honest to God, this is probably the biggest reason I can win this game. If there was a second airport on this map, if, like, say this was an airport instead of a regular port. If there's a second airport on this map, he can build 2 bombers a turn. I'd lose. 100%, there'd be no coming back from that. I just would not have a way to deal with it. But because he only has 1 and he can only build 1 bomber a turn, now that his army of bombers is gone, he doesn't have enough... Excuse me, throat's getting dry. He doesn't have the ability to produce enough units to really start threatening what he already had before again. I'm going to start pushing my anti-airs. Sorry, I had another coughing attack. I just wanted to mute myself. I'm going to push my anti-airs. I'm going to push my missiles up towards that area, and more importantly, I'm going to move my fighter up as well. And there's not going to be much he's going to be able to do about it. And if I can get my army up here, I think I can just win by capping his HQ. Like, honestly. The only defense he's going to have is what he can build on these 2 tiles, and I can definitely deal with that with these. So in my mind, I'm like, okay, I am almost certain I've won this game now. Excuse me. I just have to play smart. So I start building up my defenses here. I start moving for another cap up here. He is going to get a second bomber at, like, no matter what, at least next turn. Or this turn, but that's fine with me. This was funny. So I started capping one of his cities just sort of to force him to move this helicopter up. I didn't actually think I would be able to, like, take it, but then he couldn't kill my infantry, so I'm like, oh, I might actually be able to take the city. And then he starts moving up the bomber to protect it. I'm like, oh, that's even better for me, but then this happens. So he built another copter instead, again, to just put more stuff over here, and then he sort of starts building what appears to be another ground-based army to fight on this side of the map. Because, again, I actually don't have a ton of artillery right over here, but that doesn't really matter, because it's not very hard for me to just sort of move a couple of these artillery over. And again, he moves to stop this capture. Dude, capping this city has become impossible in this game. Like, it's just never going to happen. So I joined these infantry to, again, sort of force him to use his like, his tanks to stop this capping. Which means that they're not going to be, like, a threat in any way, shape, or form to my actual artillery. And then I start moving these infantry over, so, like, okay, if I can't cap this city, I can at least cap this city and flip 1,000 that way. I take out the the transport copter here with this missile just to keep it from blocking anything, essentially. So I on a later turn, I don't have to deal with it. I just want it gone now. And like I said, so this was another, like, refuel here, resupply here, and then if I need to move this artillery up because it's also getting low on ammo, I can also move it up next to that. What do I have on this lander? Double artillery. Unfortunately, do lose my infantry there. It's odd to me that he would move this bomber in range of this anti-air. Like that, I don't understand what the play here was. Like, I think in his mind what's going to happen here is, like, I can move this up here, but it won't kill it, and then this can move in, and I don't know. Like, I don't know. I think may have also just been starting to get tilted because of, like, again, he's now on he's very much on the back foot. So interestingly enough, though, he doesn't choose to stop this capture this turn. He instead does choose to move in on my artilleries, which just means his tanks die. Move back here, resupply. So again, now I've just sort of, like, I'm abusing movement restriction from trees. I'm abusing, the units I don't actually need alive on this side of the map. These anti-airs aren't doing anything anymore because all of his air units are on this side. And then I just kill his bomber because of course I do. I once again start capping a city, only this time with missile protection. So again, if he wants to stop this, like, so I'm playing to this, like, the strongest possible win I can have here, which is slow but steady. I'm dealing with the units he's putting out. I'm slowly grinding away at his cities, and I'm slowly moving towards his HQ. I am not trying to rush in and just try and steal a win. I am trying to guarantee a win. And then I build another, like I said, battlecopter down here. This is just to, again, this is sort of to cover the tanks that are over here. He has one anti-air, and I have a lot of things that can deal with that anti-air. It's also, like, again, if he wants to deal with this infantry capping the city, he will most likely have to use both the tank and the anti-air. How should I put this? He won't have to use both the tank and the anti-air, but he will have to use the anti-air. Like, the tank on its own won't kill it. So he would have to move his anti-air down here if he wants to stop the cap, and then I just kill it. So his choices are move the anti-air away, and then sacrifice this tank to not stop this capture, or move this anti-air in to stop the capture guaranteed, but then it dies. So I was not prepared for that, though. I was not prepared for 5 damage on this missile. I don't know why I didn't think it was going to do that much damage, but I was incorrect. But it doesn't matter because he resigns this turn. That might seem sort of odd. But again, like, he doesn't really, like, there's nothing here. This missile will still kill this battlecopter. This anti-air will still kill this battlecopter. Or even more so, like, this anti-air will kill that battlecopter. And then this missile can move down. And then this, like, he can move this. What's he going to do? He's going to move this bomber down, I guess, and then just be in, like, die to this or die to this. He's just sort of out of plays at this point. Like, I've already started to move to neutralize his airport. So his only really real plays at this point are to start building over here. But I mean, what's that going to do for him? I've already got this massive army over here. Like, I do think resigning there is sort of understandable. Like, you've fallen too far behind to come back. I, on the other hand, cannot believe I won because I made so many mistakes. Though I didn't make the biggest mistake, which was I did not move in first. This battle really shows why a lot of games, especially standard games, no fog, you know, like why they become sort of stalemates once you hit mid game and both armies have really started to built up strong front lines. Because moving in first is incredibly dangerous. And like what was it? Turn 21? No, turn 20. So like he absolutely like he got a lot out of this. Like let's count the things he kills here, shall we? 1 artillery, 1 infantry, 1 missile or 1 rocket, another artillery, an anti-air, another artillery. Like, that infantry is whatever. Who cares about that infantry? Actually, also that infantry was kind of whatever. Like, he got a lot out of this. The problem is he gave up all of his good units to do it, and his good units are, how should I put it? They're way better and simultaneously way worse than Grit's. Like these Neotanks, these bombers, they are such unbelievably good units. And he can spam them because he is Colin. The problem is, again, as I said when I was talking about this earlier, Grit's best units are $6,000 artilleries. Like, and these units actually are comparable on this map. Like, that's because I am Grit. Like, Grit's artilleries and Colin's Neotanks are the same thing. Now, obviously, that's not entirely true. Like, obviously, Neotanks are just way better. But, like, in terms of my ability to deal with his stuff, my artilleries can deal with his Neotanks. And my artilleries aren't that expensive. The most expensive unit he killed was my one rockets here. And yeah, that's a big hit. Those are 15, 14? Forgetting right now, I'm sorry. But again, he has to trade a 22,000 income unit to do it. And again, his cost less. His is not a 22,000 income. It's actually like a 1,800 something income. Or no, it's a 17,006, I think it is. 17,006 income unit. But again, like, that's still more than double my artilleries. That's still almost double these anti-airs. And, like, again, he got a really good push here. Like, I'm not going to say he didn't. But I was already in a position to... Like, I was already in a position to recover from that. And then because he popped Power of Money instead of Gold Rush, he didn't get to build, like, the supremely overpowered units he wanted to build because he wanted, like, building one bomber to replace all of these, like, to replace what he's about to lose here is actually really detrimental because then he's giving up map presence for it. And then again, it's just one after the other. 2. He lost, what is it? He lost 3 bombers right there. 4 if you count this one. And then this one got heavily incapacitated. And even worse, because yeah, look at this. Because his units are so expensive, like, I get to build up my own CO meter very quickly, and he's getting nothing out of that because he's in his own super. And I don't want to make it seem like my opponent was like very bad or anything like that. He did make, like, obviously this was a huge risk. He didn't make a bad play, he made a risky play, and it didn't work out. That's just what happens. Sometimes when you take a risk, it works. Sometimes when you take a risk, it doesn't. And in this case, it absolutely did not. Would it have benefited him to just wait longer and really try and, like, essentially income me out? Maybe. The problem is that I was, like I said, we were sort of stalemated on income. Like, he can build his good units every turn, but again, so can I, because my good units are just cheap. So, it really didn't, like, it wasn't a big enough win, I feel like, for him when he did it. That's why. And I feel like waiting also necessarily wasn't the answer. I think the big issue is just that, again, as I've been trying to reiterate this point a lot, Grit gets to mid-game or late game and still has an army, he is at a huge advantage, because at that point he just wants to turtle as well. Like, if you want to stall out for money, that's fine, because I just want to stall out for artillery. And I can do that because artillery are cheap. So it was very much a lose-lose sort of situation there. He needed to do something, and he decided the risky play was where it was at. Because if he survived my crackback well enough, even just like well enough, like if he had managed to kill a couple more artillery after this, I think he probably would have won. Honestly, he definitely would have. It's just that I survived just a little bit better than he thought I would. And that got me the win. Like, that's essentially what sealed the win. Because just a few turns later, and now, like, look at this. 31 units to 17. And, like, he rebuilds a little, he loses more. He rebuilds a little, he loses more. Like, it wasn't a winnable position at this point. Like, he could not win at this point. He was going to start losing cities. I was going to start moving infantry in to start trying to cap some of his cities. I was going to start moving up. Moving up my artillery up this way is really bad for him because, one, I can cover his lander stuff, and two, it threatens taking this comm tower. Taking that comm tower would be very bad for him, because then my artilleries become actual mid-tanks, and then his stuff just obviously becomes a lot weaker. It would have been very bad. This is something you'll see a lot in standard games too, is like, the game is not over. Like, you've already seen it against me and Shy. Like, the game's not over, but the game is over, so just resign, right? Yeah, and then, I mean, even when you just look at the stats, like, my kills versus deaths, like, I had 15 kill advantage over him. And then, obviously, the stuff that I killed was much more valuable than the stuff that he killed. Like, look at this. Of my things that he wanted to kill, you know, the actual ranged units, he killed 4 artillery and 1 rocket. He killed 4 anti-airs, but I still had a ton of anti-airs on the battlefield. For him, though, I killed 7 bombers, 4 neo-tanks, a mid-tank, a rocket, 14 regular tanks. Like, it snowballed out of control for him, and there was no win out there. This was a long one, guys. This video's at an hour and a half. If anyone is still here, I am super thankful for that. As always, there's going to be a link in the description if you guys want to play Advanced Wars here on your own. I'll put a link to Advanced Wars by Web in the description. I will put a link to the Advanced Wars by Web Discord. I will put a link to my Discord. Check out any of those 3 things. Check out Advanced Wars by Web. It's super fun. If you want to challenge me, I'm always down to play. I have another game that I'm super excited to record. I was desperately trying to decide whether I wanted to do that one or this one first, but despite the fact this one is an hour and a half, the next one's probably going to be longer. And, but it was super cool, and the guy I played with was like a super cool dude, and even better, it's in Fog, which you haven't gotten to see me play in yet. So, yeah, look out for that one. I have to find a day when I have time to record it, because like I said, it's gonna be friggin' massive, most likely. But until then, thanks for watching, guys. This has been Pink Reaper, signing out.